Hey, there he is.
Tim,
Hey.
can you hear us?
Yeah, I hear you now.
There you go.
Were you doing that on purpose, weren't you? Hey, Dave.
Hey, Mel, how are you doing? I'm good. How are you doing, Mel?
Doing really, really good. I'm so glad you're home, and I'm glad you're home safe and you didn't fall into the Black Canyon of Colorado or I was waiting for pics though of you doing an Evel Knievel across the canyon.
Yeah, no, that's not going to happen. I Evel Knieveled off of a sand dune the week before and took a really nasty tumble and messed my leg up pretty good. So went into that race a little bit injured. But anyway, made it through the race pretty much unscathed. Only fell a few times. First few days, I didn't fall at all. And then second,
that's amazing.
Day, I fell a lot. And anyway, but it was awesome. It was really good. I had a really fun time. It was
4 days, right? 4 days?
4 days, 600 miles and sleeping in tents every night. And my takeaway from the entire thing is that I'm actually tougher than I thought I was.
There you go.
Stronger than I thought I was and tougher than I thought I was.
Dave gave it a go.
I gave it a go and it was fun.
Did you snuggle up with a scorpion in your tent or a rattlesnake?
Nope. Saw no critters that were anything other than the other thing annoying was maybe
you're ruining it for me.
I know. There were yellow jackets and flies. Those were the only things that I had to deal with a little bit. But other than that, I was fine.
I don't like yellow jackets. They're just assholes.
They are. So it was good. It was a really amazing race. Coda Rally, first time ever in U.S. history that there's been a like FIM style navigation rally. Not a big crowd showed up to race. But it turned out, if you count the DNFs and the injury, I didn't come in last, but I finished, so I was the last finisher, and that was fine. The third day,
but you finished, and that's all that matters, and that's part of giving it a go. Is that you aren't always going to be the best, you're not always going to be first, and even if you're last, you at least did it.
But anyways, how's your week going? What's going on with you?
Really not a whole lot. I had a relatively boring week. I got my fish in the pond, and so I'm loving them. I've got my outdoor pond and named all my fishies after Harry Potter characters, of course.
Oh God.
And the bright orange one is named Fred, of course, after my favorite character. But other than that, I refinished some furniture and moved some shit around, did typical Melina stuff.
Yeah. Well, we've got something coming up this Sunday that's going to be kind of fun and talk about giving it a go. Do we even talk about it right now, or do we?
Yeah, we certainly can. So this Sunday, we're jumping out of a not so perfectly good airplane.
Yep.
It's going to be so much fun. I was getting my nails done the other day, and the gal that was across the way sitting in the other chair was talking about it because she was turning 30. And she was like, so yeah, I'm going to go skydiving next week. And I was like, oh, really? Where? And she's going to the same place, but she's going Saturday instead of Sunday.
Okay.
Isn't that funny? I was like,
that's
my
great.
God, that's so cool.
It's going to be fun. So.
I know. Yep. I know. I'm very excited.
Awesome.
I'm also very excited to introduce tonight's guest, Tim Chaffin. I met back in 2008, and we've been buddies for a very long time. He's an interesting man in that he is hilarious. He is beyond witty and has done some pretty cool things in his life, some very brave things. He was in the Air Force, and but he's just your typical Southern boy, your Southern gentleman and Southern boy. He deer hunts and those kinds of things, fishes, and but he's just such an interesting guy with such a I don't even know how to properly say it, but his vision of the world, he sees things that people don't see.
Right.
He can talk to you for a minute and he will know exactly who you are. You know, I mean, very intuitive.
Right.
And now he's my boss. So I will
Yep.
tell
Okay.
you that he is the vice president of Clinical Engagement Center, which
Okay.
is
Great.
where I work, that where I recruit for
Awesome.
medical providers. And he's amazing. So have you ever had one of those bosses that, because I haven't until Tim, that if you do something wrong, normally, you know, they call you out and you go to the office and they tell you, okay, slap you on the wrist or write you up or whatever, or send you on your way, depending on what it was. If you go, Tim will call you into the office and just start chatting. And then he'll come up with an analogy on something you have no idea. He could be talking about cotton candy at a fair when he was a kid, but somehow by the end of his story, you know what he meant,
Right.
and just don't do that again.
Right.
And you walk out going, hey, you know, that was cool. And then it just hits you later. I got in trouble and I didn't even know it. You know,
Oh,
it's
I've
like,
had that.
it's the
I've had that.
greatest. He's the best boss I've ever had.
Yep.
And it's cool that, you know, we're also friends.
All
Well,
right,
bring him on in and
right.
let's say hello to Tim Chaffin.
Hey, nice to meet you, Tim.
Tim, Dave,
I'm Dave.
Dave, Tim.
Cool.
Well, listen, can I just say before we get started, I don't feel like I can get started with this without saying it. I know a lot about Dave because of what Melina has shared with me, but I thought I would Google you and try to find some things out. And so before we get any further, I just want to congratulate you on your incredibly successful rap music career. So I had no idea, but I just wanted to say congratulations for that.
Bust one out. Why don't you, Dave? Come on.
Yeah, no, I hit my head and that whole persona is gone. So no,
Right.
I don't.
No, you got to do the hat sideways. There you go. That's it.
Good stuff. That was good stuff.
Indeed, indeed. So, gentlemen, what are we drinking tonight?
Ooh.
Tim, what are you having?
Well, I am going with the old Jack and Coke. Now,
Shut
if you
your
get
face.
real
Oh,
crazy,
my.
I do have my Pickle Rick shot glass and some vodka. If you get too crazy, if not, I'm going to stick with the Jack and Coke.
My goodness, Tim's ready to party. Well, I broke out the fall glass because guess what? It turned fall a few hours ago. Yay! I love me some fall. And so I thought I've got two. I've got the Jack Daniel's Rye. Have you tried that? It's really awesome. I mean, it's not the best rye whiskey I've ever had, but it is really good. And then as my backup, of course, I've got the Angel's Envy.
Right.
But I don't mix my Jack with Coke. So I'm going to implore you to try something next time.
Okay.
Root beer.
Okay. Hey, I love some good root beer.
I do too.
I do love anything Jack Daniels. So, I mean, really, I've never had anything Jack Daniels that I didn't like.
He's training for Dakar. I don't know if you know what that is, Tim.
I do. And I mean, I'm not as into all that stuff as you guys are, but you know, Melina, I have the Corvette. I'm very, you know, I'm very interested in hearing about it, learning about it. But I really, you know, we ride motorcycles and drive around here, but I've never been involved in anything that cool. So
me neither.
So.
What year is your Corvette?
It's a 77.
That's right.
Wow, cool.
I know, it's a classic.
Yeah,
Nice.
It's a 77. It has the 350 with the 400 turbo transmission. So everything's rich. Well, I mean, I've rebuilt both the engine and the transmission, but otherwise everything's original.
You work with Melina in some capacity there.
He's my direct report.
Now, what's your background? Where are you from?
So I'm from Georgia. It's you know, I always tell people it's amazing how, for me, I grew up wanting to get away, do something big, go somewhere. And I did that with the Air Force for, you know, years and years and years. And, you know, when it's put in front of you that, you can, you finish that career and you're going to go home. And the first thing I did was move right back 5 miles where I was from.
Oh
So
my gosh.
wow.
it was a really good lesson that the grass is not always greener.
What happened in your life that made you decide to go into the Air Force?
I always had a desire to serve in the military, and I don't know where that came from, meaning that I didn't have anyone. My dad, who, Melina, my dad is my best friend to this day. Now, growing up, he wasn't my best friend, but he became my best friend as I got older. I think he was more
It's hard to
focused
be
on
best
raising
friends
me.
with someone that beats you.
Right, exactly. But I think, I always had the desire to join the military.
Mhm.
As I got into college, and there was just always that voice back there. And so I kept sticking to what I thought I was supposed to do. Just, you got to get through high school, and then you got to go to college, and then you have to do, and I kept sticking to that, but there was always that little voice. And so, a few years in to college, the first time around, a few years in, it just occurred to me that it was time. And that, for me, I think I also knew that I needed that, because I had direction, but I didn't have clear direction of what I wanted to do. And so I remember going to the recruiter and telling him, listen, I made my decision. This is what I want to do, but you're going to have to get me there pretty quickly, because I also know if I don't go ahead and do it, once I've decided to do it, if any time goes by, I'm going to change my mind.
Yeah.
So before I finished the sentence, I was standing in boots in San Antonio, thinking like, what the hell just
Shaving
happened?
your head.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So it was a really, I think for me, it was one of the most profound experiences, because I grew up in the middle of nowhere, not many people around, hunting and fishing. I think I found some kind of core comfort areas in my life of nature and those things, but I didn't have a lot of exposure to a lot of different types of people, and so when you get immersed in a very tight knit group like the military, and you always hear about the camaraderie and all that's there, but you also learn so much about just people in general and the differences. And what makes people great is the fact that there are so many great differences. That's what is enjoyable. And so I think I learned a lot of lessons from that. I had a great Air Force career.
How long were you in?
It was about, I'm going to round to 14. I think it was about 13 and a half years. I had,
Damn.
I finished that career a little early. They, if you hit a point that you're not worldwide deployable, you're going to do one of two things. Well, one of three things. You're either going to get out, or you're going to be a recruiter, or you're going to be a drill sergeant. So I thought, well, what the hell? I'll go into recruiting. So that was my, introduction into something that I didn't realize I was going to love so much. I really didn't have a desire to be a recruiter, but I did have a desire to finish my career in the Air Force. It ended up that they gave me the option to retire early, and I was like, well, so be it. But that's when I moved home, and I thought, man, 2 weeks on the couch, you gain about 10 pounds, and you think, this sucks. Like, this isn't what I thought it was going to be. And so that's when I saw the advertisement for where we work now, and was blessed and fortunate in the fact that they hired me. And but I still pull a lot from that military experience. So, but that's how I'm where I'm at now. Let me say it this way: in the military, there, and I think I have the experience in the military, and I've done that, and I can speak on it. But I don't mean, for anybody that watches this, I don't think that I know everything, that everybody deals with. I can only talk about my experience through it. And so my experience was, I learned in the military that there is a book and an instruction for everything. Like you didn't, we want people to connect the dots. The military people are great about connecting the dots, but you also don't have to a lot of times because there's an exact checklist that you go down no matter what you're doing. And
just
so,
like when flying, you've got your checklist before you taxi out.
That's exactly, it's a great analogy. It's exactly right. You just have the
learn from the master.
Thanks. Well, so you do, learn that. And so many times on this side of the aisle, once the military's over and you're back in the civilian world and you're doing your, you realize that you're that missing link a lot of times, and you can't go to a book to try to figure out what the next step is. You have to develop that and think through it and be prepared to do it. And that can be quite frustrating early on, but that challenge actually ends up, I think, helping you not only do things yourself, but help others, because you have that mindset of, okay, these are the things we need to get done. These are the steps we need to do. And then you're able to help other people that may not be used to having steps or know exactly what to look for. So there's a blessing and a curse both in that kind of delineation of this is the way to do things, and then you get somewhere where there's not an exact checklist.
Right. There's comfort probably in the certainty of the process and following the rule. And then when left to let's say freestyle a little bit, it can be unsettling. I've managed, some folks like that, both types of people. Some people are very independent, and then some people are very, they want that structure in that comfort, in that check, kind of that procedure and stuff. And it's interesting. I just wasn't sure if that is something that is ingrained in everybody despite who they came in before, or is it something that, people who were kind of, for the free thinker before the military sort of, they get out and they can still sort of, be whatever that kind of, I'm not sure if it's sort of an ingrained thing just with the person, or is it something that the military actually kind of instills in people or something? I don't know.
It is. I think it's more experience based, like meaning that there's nobody's getting brainwashed. Nobody's forgetting who they are. I play the guitar. I didn't forget to play the guitar when I was in the military. Like I was afraid I was going to. The first 2 days, you're like, am I going to get brainwashed, or am I going to? But you don't. What they do is they provide you with the tools that you may be missing.
Right.
But it's about the experience of how to apply those tools to who you are, and to have a common goal and a common mission and a common understanding. And so I think the people that get involved in it, sure, they adjust and change just like we do with any experience that we have, but hopefully quality people take quality experiences and become stronger people. And so I think in most cases, that's what you see happen. As far as having that checklist and doing that, I don't have that now with work, but I do have a wife that is really happy to tell me exactly what to do when I need it. So I kind of get the best of both worlds. I'm joking, Melina. Leanna takes very good care of me. Well, and Melina, you and I were just joking about this the other day. I'm a history guy. So if I have time to read stuff, I like to read historical stuff. And if that's not boring enough, a lot of times it's military stuff. So it's military history of things. And there's one, I don't want to get into a discussion about who this person is because we could talk for the next 12 hours, but there's one person that I really like to read about in American history. And one of the things that he did, one of the first battles he was in, he was in front of his men. They were outnumbered 4 or 5 to 1. And he just drew his sword and took off down the hill. Didn't give any orders, and he was way outnumbered.
Wow.
And the people that wrote about it and that saw it and that participated in it said that there was this mad rush of adrenaline that everybody felt like they just needed to follow him.
Hmm.
You know, that they knew they were going into kind of a dire situation, and the chance of coming out of that may not be good, but the right thing. They just had this feeling of this is the right thing to do, and they followed him. Now, I thought about that afterwards and thought that's a really cool thing. He must have done some things prior to that, right?
Like peyote.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. But also those men, he wasn't a stranger to them. You know, they didn't just see somebody they didn't know and say, oh, we're going to follow that guy. He also didn't order them to do anything. He just knew what needed to be done and they followed him to do it. And by the way, they won that battle. The other side wrote about it too and said there was no way they were going to win. But before we knew it, they had run through us all. So now the reason I bring this up is because I also thought about how much it would suck if he had took off down that hill and everybody just stood there like, oh, look at that guy. Get annihilated. You know, when he hits that, you know, but there's the chance in what we do, especially in leadership, there's always the chance that you run off down the hill by yourself. So you better make damn sure that you've got those guys back because they're going to have your back too. But if you don't do the work ahead of time to make sure that they know that you genuinely care and genuinely have their back and are going to try to put them in the best situation, no matter what's going on, if you're not doing those things, then I think you're gonna fail. And so will that, you know. So
wow. It's almost like you have to be patiently strategic or strategically patient.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. And you better care about the people around you.
What do you like to do for fun?
Man, I was a motorcycle rider for a while. I mean, I grew up riding motorcycles. You know, Melina, I used to drive back and forth to the Kennesaw office.
He sure did. And it was like an hour and a half each way.
So I miss that. I don't do much of that now, but I did do that for a long time. Now, when I have time, I really just like to spend it outdoors, you know, hunting, fishing, camping, you know, those kinds of things are enjoyable. Archery is a big, you know, a big hobby of mine. So those are the things that I enjoy.
Oh, awesome. Now, are you bow hunting?
Yep. Yep.
Oh.
The real bow hunting, not the compound bow, you know, where it's like a gun, but the actual old school archery.
The recurve, right?
I can't hit shit, but that's what I hunt with. Now, I grew up, you know, shooting a lot, and so archery hunting it's not like riding a bike. You will forget it to some degree if you don't do it regularly, routinely.
Same
I mean,
with
you don't
shooting.
forget the basics. Yeah, but with archery, it's something you really do have to, there's some muscle memory involved in that. And so, but I also think that like with the hunting part of it, it's not about going out and shooting something. I tell people all the time, if I could breathe life into them and hunt them again the next day, I would. But I feel like the archery component of it is a lot more real and natural and a challenge that is enjoyable to even just be there and see wildlife and see the things around you. And for, you know, the stuff that we put up with in all of us, you know, in our work life and those things, you have to have those outlets. It sounds like for you, maybe that's cars, right, Dave? You know,
for me, it's motorcycle. It's motorcycling.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I loved, you know, for years, I mean, probably 30 years, I loved riding motorcycles. I mean, I would just go out and ride it around the house for 3 minutes and then come back and feel, you know, and then other days you go out and spend the day doing it. But where I grew up, my dad's still out there. There's a lot of land out there, and it's nothing extravagant, but we have a lot of power lines and a lot of, you know, that we would ride on. But I would take the kids to Durhamtown, and we did go to Cedartown. I forget, Highland Park, I think you said. We went up there too. But I think that was great for the kids because they had some of those. I wouldn't say it was safe, but it was much safer than some of the other places we rode. So,
Oh yeah, that's awesome.
yeah.
I don't
So-
know. I learned to ride a little Honda 50. I take that back. I didn't learn to ride it. I attempted to learn when I was young. We had my uncle had a cow farm in South Georgia, and they had a little Yamaha something or another. And I don't even know what that one was, but I remember it being a Yamaha, and it was yellow and white. And I tried to learn that. And I can't remember because it was so long ago if it's 1 down and 5 up or the other way around or whatever it is. And I always got confused on okay, so you put in the clutch and, change your gear, but let go of the throttle when you engage the clutch. That's where I would forget. So it would, and then I'm like, oh, and instead of letting go of the throttle, I let go of the clutch, which means you go back and you end up, so when I did the Honda 50, I was like 20 years old or something like that in somebody else's cow field. Maybe that's my problem, is I shouldn't be in cow fields. And I just, it's only 2 feet off the ground, but I laid it flat on my back, spread eagle, and I'm just laughing like hell because, I wasn't hurt, but it was, I made the same mistake that I had made as a child. And I'm just laughing at myself going, I should not be doing this. But when I was a child and did it, I hit a cow.
Wow.
So, bikes are not good for me. Corvettes are perfect.
Yeah. Now you can vouch for this. I believe you were there when this happened. But Dave, one of my, towards the end of my street bike riding, which I did for a long time, but towards the end of that, I hit a deer on the way to work one morning. I don't know, Melina, were you there at the time?
I don't remember that.
I was very fortunate.
You were already in the Atlanta office, I'm assuming?
No, it was in Kennesaw.
Then I was there.
Yeah, you were there. I in fact, I for months and months refused to clean up the front of the bike because the tire looked like it had shag carpet coming out of it from all the deer hair that was embedded in it. So
my God.
So I don't know, it was kind of a mark of honor. But I think that's when I realized that I was, like Dave, earlier we were talking about the military and about like, does it change you? It doesn't, because I realized, I say it doesn't change you. It obviously changes you, but it doesn't change who you are.
Right.
And so I realized that I was the same redneck that I'd always been when I hit that deer, because in the middle of the accident, when I realized that I wasn't going to wreck, that the deer and I are tied up and we're sliding down the road, but I'm not going anywhere. We're just sliding. And once I realized that we were going to make it, well, the deer wasn't going to make it, but I was.
Yeah.
It occurred to me, my dad is going to ask me if it was a buck or a doe. And so I remember the bike is like this, and we're all tangled up and we're sliding. And I look down, you have all the stuff on the helmet. So I'm looking down to see if it's a buck or a doe so I can tell my dad. And then I'm like, well, that's stupid. You're not done wrecking yet, So that's when I knew.
But everything goes in slow-mo when you're in those moments. So you actually do have time to kind of notice these things. And
you're like,
Yeah, I thought, Dad, I could just hear him asking me like, you call your parent after something like that and hope that they put an arm around you and pat you on the back and make sure you're okay. But I knew his immediate question would be, well, was it a buck or a doe?
Well, was it his immediate question?
It was his immediate question.
Wow.
I knew the answer. So
there you go. And which was it?
It was a button buck. It was a little, had the little buttons.
Oh, wow.
It was unfortunate. I don't, I don't care if you hit a squirrel, a turtle, a deer. It doesn't matter what you hit. You always feel so bad about it.
You do, and you think that that's redneck, that you kept the carpet on the wheel. But it was probably around that same time, because Ackworth was still a scary place to go and wasn't the, really cool place that it is now. But back then, Henry's hadn't even moved out there with their Cajun food. So it was nothing. And so it was just a podunk town. And on Wade Green exit coming down 75, and I heard as I was getting dressed to come to work, and I'm listening to the radio, and they're doing the traffic, and they said, okay, Wade Green is backed up, all the way to Cartersville because someone heading south on 75 hit a bear, and it wasn't quite dead. So this guy that had a gun, naturally, Cobb County, he comes out and he kills the bear. So he wants it, but the guy that hit it wants it. And now they've got, cops showing up, not just because of the accident, but these two yahoos were having a fist fight in the middle of Interstate 75 over the bear carcass.
Welcome to Georgia.
That's some redneck shit.
That is such a Georgia story. That's awesome.
That is some redneck shit.
And then you only have to go how many more miles into town, and it all of a sudden becomes this kind of like urban island, which is completely opposite.
Right.
That's, oh my gosh. I always say that the color of a culture, or the cultural stereotypes, are always like 15 miles outside of the big cities.
Exactly.
It's like because it was interesting because it hit me when I was working with guys who lived in Sydney, Australia. It was like they weren't the stereotype Australian. They were very much like you're just average city folk. It was interesting. I just kind of like, oh, you know what? The stereotypes actually happen about 15 miles outside of town.
Right.
So,
if you want to know what's going on, you're right. That's where you go to check it out.
Exactly. I do actually have a really good redneck story about myself. This is truly a Georgia story. So, and this was back in the day when you could shoot a gun in your backyard. First of all, so where I grew up was not far from our Kennesaw office. I was over by the Sprayberry High School district. Okay. And we had 2 miles of woods behind my house, and a creek and all that good stuff. Well, I was outside playing. I was like 7. And these 2 squirrels were beating up my cat. So I had my little Daisy BB gun, and I'm out there plinking at the squirrels. Leave the cat alone, and of course it's bouncing off of squirrels because their hides are thick as hell. Right. And so I went inside and I told my father, and I said, hey, listen, these squirrels beating up my cat. I'm trying to shoot him with a BB gun and nothing's happening. He's like, we can fix that. He comes out with a shotgun. and I'm so small and I'm like, seriously? And he goes, yeah. So I've got this shotgun in the backyard, and I'm so little that he's having to hold the end of the barrel, and he's saying, okay, tell me up or down, and tell me when you got the sight on it, and then tell me when you're going to pull the trigger. So I'm like, okay, higher, right there. And I said, is it going to kick? He says, nah. So I pull the trigger, land flat on my back, and it's that whole slow-mo thing. And all I hear is, you got 2, and here comes these 2 squirrels falling out of the tree. That's not the redneck part. So he skins them and decides to cook them pretty much like Dove, where he does it over rice with the gravy. Yeah. Fucking nasty. Squirrels do not taste good. But so he's skinning it and he gives me the tails. I kept the tails and used them as stoles for my Barbies.
That's pretty rough.
So Tim, I know that there's another thing that you like to do for fun, a new hobby of yours. Ghost hunting?
Yep. Ghost hunting. And now that I've seen a lot of your, I think I've seen all of your episodes actually with Give It a Go. I think I'm going to go out and make a podcast that's Give It a Ghost.
I love it.
Awesome.
Give up the ghost.
Right. We'll give up the ghost. Yeah. So that's even better. It's kind of an interesting thing. It's sometimes it's a polarizing topic for people. I don't really care. It's not something that I am like all for, all against. It's just something I'm intrigued by. And
Right.
so I think that when you don't know the answers to things, for me, I just naturally want to know what the answers to those things are. And so whether it's research or looking into something. And so there was a point recently when that pointed at ghost. And I really didn't know one way or the other, but I thought, well, it's still a fun thing to grab people, put people together, my wife and my sister-in-law, and even their grandmother has done some things with us with this. And it's more about that experience of, you know, the spookiness of it, or the, you know, going somewhere weird at night, you know, and I don't know. I mean, if anything big ever happened, we might not be ghost hunting anymore, you
Right.
know. But it is an interesting thing, and it's something that I enjoy. And we have gotten
would
some
you
things
keep
we
the
just
poo in your pants like you kept the deer hair on your wheel?
probably so. Probably so. But you know, we most recently we went to a place in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, and it's an old mental wasn't a mental hospital, it was a mental,
Asylum.
yeah, where they had like the criminally insane.
Right, right.
Oh,
Wow.
wow.
And
yeah.
so it was, it had been closed down a while. We went to the one in Tuscaloosa. It was late. We went in. I do have some equipment that we took in just to see. Didn't get anything. I mean, nothing. It was really weird and creepy, but it's because you're in an insane asylum and it's the middle of the night. But right when we went to leave, um, I told Misty, my sister-in-law, my wife, we're all there. We have my brother-in-law, like it's kind of a family just goofing off one night. And right before we left, I said, hold on, I want to ask a question. And I said, we had this little, what they call a ghost box. It had been going all night. We haven't heard anything on it. And I said something about, okay, we're leaving. And when I said it, the creepiest voice you have ever heard came through. It said a full sentence. It said, get out of here. And when it said
Whoa.
it, Misty and I looked at each other. Now, my wife and brother-in-law were talking when this happened. And so when they heard it, they looked and said, what did that say? And Misty and I repeated it at the same time together.
So
what
you
it
both
said.
heard it, and so you know that's what it said.
Yeah.
So the ghost box, that's the one that has that just not the static noise, but it kind of like garbly sounds, and then if there's something communicating, a legit voice comes through, and you can understand what it's saying.
You can, and
It's
the other one
creepy
that
as
I
hell
like,
listening to it.
well, yeah, I mean, it is really interesting, but there's always, with that kind of equipment, in the back of my mind, I always think like there's room for error, there's room for
Sure.
misinterpretation. And so
Especially when you're scared.
yeah. And so, but that was so clear and precise that even if it was some kind of error, we just decided we're going to go. Like,
Well,
this
I
is-
mean, you were already saying
So,
you're
yeah.
leaving, and then it says, get out of here. Why didn't you? I said we're leaving.
We had been asking
Where'd it go,
questions,
man?
doing stuff for probably a half hour to an hour,
Mhm.
and nothing had come through. And
Wow.
at that moment, it did.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah,
What
it
other
was cool.
pieces do you have?
So I do have some. I should have been more prepared with it, but we do have some of the digital voice recorders, you know, where you just go back and listen to the audio. I think that we went on vacation up to this house in Tennessee this year. And when we got there, it was a house that was built in the 1800s. They were doing some renovations on it. And we were the first people that had stayed in this house since they had done the renovation. And it had a lot of the painted glass and things. It was really nice. But it also had the original flooring, the original. So you always think in a place like that, even as a kid, you're like, oh, this place is haunted, you know?
Absolutely.
But you don't know. So we did take equipment there just to see. And I remember we had a couple of our dogs went with us, and we always give them a treat at night. And so we were upstairs, all the bedrooms were upstairs, and my wife said, "Oh, the treats are downstairs." I said, "Oh, I'll go get them." So I kind of fumble down the steps. It's dark. You can't see anything. I go into the kitchen and I'm filling around. I didn't even turn the light on. I don't even know where the light switch is. I just need to get the treats.
Right.
And I just hear a breath. Now, it could be something in the plumbing. It could be like we all have noises in our houses. So immediately you hear a breath, but the science part of my brain goes to, well, it could be anything. So I keep fumbling around. I find the treats. I'm already down there. I'm not going to not get the treats. But then I heard it again. And so I got the treats. I went upstairs. I told my wife about it. She, of course, always rolls her eyes at, anything
Right.
ghost related. So the next night, she went down to get the treats because I wised up, the first night.
You made her go.
Yep.
And when she came back upstairs,
I'm like, here, taste this. Hey, smell this.
Because I'm the husband I am, I left the treats down there on purpose.
Yep.
So she went down to get them the next night, and she came back up and she's like, "Listen, I know I make fun all the time, but I think I just had a ghost experience." I said, "What is it?" She said, "I was down there." She said, "Something touched me in the back." She's like, "It was like something just kind of poked me." Ooh. And I said, "Well, that's interesting." We broke out the ghost. We hadn't done the ghost equipment. We had just, and her mom heard somebody fall down the steps the night before, but nobody was out there. So there was some kind of weird things going on. So I did get the voice recorder, which isn't any kind of static. It's not any kind of noises. It just records what's going on.
EVPs.
Mm-hmm. And I asked a question about if they were upset about the renovations going on. And when we went back and heard it, there was no answer to that. But the next question was this your house? Like, can you just tell me, was this your house? And it was a very vocal, loud yes. Wow. And so I still have that's one of the ones you keep, because the people that were there, I wasn't by myself. We had, my wife, sister-in-law, brother-in-law, we're all standing around. Everybody's quiet. Everybody's listening for like what's here. And then you go back and you hear a voice that all of us knew, like nobody had said. Nobody had answered that question.
Gosh. Wow.
So now, does that mean, like, I don't mean to, does it mean ghosts are there or not? I don't know, but it really is, in support of this podcast and what it's meant to be. No matter what the answer is, the fun is figuring it out, and going out and giving those things a go. So you don't even necessarily have to believe or not believe in something to go check it out, try it out, have some experiences. And it's things that to this day, the family and I enjoy and we experience and we talk about, and we have these things. We still are no closer to any answer to anything, but we have the experience and the fun of having done it together.
Oh, wow.
That is so cool. I'm telling you, we need to do a team exercise where, especially you, me, and Brandy, we have to go, and our spouses.
I think the craziest one was, and I can back this up, Melina, I will show it to you so you can, let Dave know that I'm not yanking your chain about it. The craziest one was, there's a cemetery that I grew up near. It was an old Civil War era type cemetery, and nobody had done anything with it. It's all dirt roads. And so I grew up riding motorcycles. And so I would ride up and down the dirt roads and, the woods and all that. And I would pass this cemetery that had 6 or 8 foot marble markers in it, that the grass was half as tall as the marker. You could barely tell it was a graveyard. And I remember in the 5th or 6th grade going up there with a couple of tools and cutting all the grass back, because it bothered me that I didn't really understand life and death, but it bothered me that these people had been forgotten about. And so Then you fast forward later in life, and I always remember, I always kept an eye on that cemetery. I didn't want it to get like trash around it or, um, so when I got interested in ghost hunting, I thought, well, I don't want to go to like a mean, like I don't want to talk to a mean ghost. If I'm going to talk to a ghost, I want it to be a ghost that would like to have a Jack and Coke with me, not one that wants to do you some harm. So I thought, what better place to go than somewhere where at least they know that even as a kid, I was trying to look out for them, you know? So it's one of the first places we went. It was my wife and my sister-in-law. We got out there, we had the ghost box, we had the digital recorder, all that stuff. It's the middle of the night. We walk up there. My sister-in-law is not afraid of anything. But when we got up there, she said, listen, you know, I'm always up for this stuff, but there is something weird I just don't feel right. I need to go get back in the truck. And so my wife and I were like, okay, you know, I mean, we'd only been there 30 seconds. But she felt really off. Now, I don't know if all those fillings and I don't know what it means. Probably nothing, but that is how she felt. And she went back to the truck. I pretty quickly decided that wasn't cool. We went out there to catch ghost. So I went to the truck and I said, listen, Misty, I don't know. We do a lot of camping. We do a lot of like ghost hunting and things. I don't know if I've ever shared this with you, but your sister and I are married. And what that means is you are always the bait. I don't care if we're camping, if we're ghost hunting, like she's not dispensable, but you kind of are as the sister-in-law. So I need you to come back up here and be the bait. And so she laughed. She got out of the truck. She fortunately came back up there. As soon as she got there, we had the DVR going. Or I say DVR, we had the digital recorder going. And I pointed at Misty and I said, what color shirt is she wearing? And when I said it, you audibly heard black. And it was so loud and distinct. You know, like we heard it with our ears.
Oh,
black.
That's fucked up.
I didn't know what color shirt she was looking. We were in the dark. So I said, what color shirt are you wearing? You can hear me on the recorder. I said, what color shirt are you wearing? She said black. And she was back in the truck. Like that was the end of that.
Crazy.
So those experiences happen. I am sure there's lots of scientific reasons why things can happen or what you may be misinterpreting or but I don't really care. It's just the fun of doing it. And I think that having those,
I want to believe, but
I know
I don't, but I want to, you know, it's like, I want Bigfoot to be real.
Yeah, we've got my old house. We had some ghost experiences there, which is really crazy. And we, for one, sometimes the house would just start smelling like cigarette smoke. That's that it could be from who knows, anything leaching up out of the floor from the previous owner. We're not sure what that was. However, we had a family member in town, and she went into the bathroom and she comes out with this look of just like, she goes, this house is haunted. She goes, literally, someone was right behind me while I was using the bathroom. And
oh, that's the worst.
Breathing on me. And then the third one was we came around the corner once, and our little daughter, when we had first moved there, she was probably 3 or 4. She's just staring out this window, and we're like, Madeline, what are you looking at? She's like, it's Grandma.
Right.
And it was like, ah! And I had some moments too where I got that chill thing, and it's like, you know, I'd look up kind of out of the peripheral vision, and I felt like I'd sense or see something. And so there was some there. It just felt, and we always joked about, oh, that's our ghost, and it's a friendly ghost, and it, you know, we assumed it's this old lady who smoked and, you know, was. Right. But it was there was something to it, and it's like, you know, I don't, you know, like you said, you can't really, your scientific mind will try to subvert that all.
It away,
but then my scientific mind starts to go towards maybe science that we've not hit yet. Like it could be something in a subatomic or time scale thing that's, you know, who knows what. We don't know.
And I've tried to theorize with it because, like I said, I do want to believe. but what throws me off is when I watch these shows, like if I watch Ghost Adventures or Jack Osborne's Portals to Hell is my favorite about those. He does such a great job, and they'll do some during the day, because I always wonder, why the hell are you having to do it in the middle of the night? Screw that. I want to do it in the day. I mean, ghosts they're alive, they're dead, but I mean, they don't nap. So they're around all the time. So why not, do it in the day where I'm not going to piss myself?
Right.
Any more than what I would if something happened. But when I'm watching these, the thing that bothered, because I can guess it is, let's just say that you weren't a religious person, and so God gives you free will, and so if you didn't want to go, I guess you could linger. Or if you did believe and you didn't want to go, I guess God would, okay, fine, tell me when you're ready and go ahead and linger about if you want. But the children, whenever they have children, because I can't see children being left behind.
Right. Right. Yeah, there's a lot of speculation on the children not actually being children.
And that's where I would go. I would think that you're being tricked by a demon or something like that, because I do believe in demons.
Right. Well, yeah, and I think that I think kind of similarly about because I do have faith. I'm not someone that feels like I need to force that
right
on other people, but I do feel like I have to force it on myself sometimes, because we're all human and we all kind of get, so
daily.
But I also think that we don't know anything about everything.
Mm-hmm.
So because of that, who am I to say that something doesn't exist or something can't exist or something isn't? I mean, shit, we may be the ghost. You know what I mean? Like, maybe that's, we don't, I'm just saying.
I'm doing it wrong if that's the case. I'd be having a hell of a lot more fun if that was the situation.
Right. So I don't think that's, yeah, I don't think that's the case, but I think that the reality is that part of what makes us progress as humans is our desire to understand the unknown. Mm-hmm. And so even if it's my wife who is laughing at me about my guilty pleasure of Ghost Adventures and Zach Baggins, which I understand, I have no cool points or man cards left when I watch Ghost Adventures, but if it comes on, I'm watching it. So she gives me a hard time about it, but I do think that idea of there being an unknown and our desire to understand the unknown, without that, we don't progress with anything, whether it's a ghost or space or anything else. And so kind of in the back of my mind, I feel like if it's something I enjoy and it's something that I find fun and I'm curious about it, I don't care what it is, as long as it's not morally, an issue.
Ambiguous.
And, and it's worth you taking advantage of having breath, having life, and having an interest in something and going to figure it out no matter what anybody thinks, but because you have interest in it.
Yeah, I think that's fantastic.
That's awesome.
I love that.
That's awesome. That really is the essence of everything that we're talking about here as well. I mean, the everything that you can do interests you and move forward towards anything. And it creates social. I mean, we heard from Christopher, it creates a social connection to, by doing the things that you do, and it connects us together, and at the same time it advances and progresses us towards either an individual goal or maybe a greater understanding. So
well, Dave, so now that we're talking about it, so Dave and Jeannie and I are skydiving this Sunday. And so maybe our next Give It a Go adventure is we need to sequester Tim and let's go do a ghost hunt one night.
It's so funny you say that. I was just thinking we need to get together one night and go do this. I have some places that we
Can
can
we do
go
it
that
before
are
9
safe and
o'clock?
legal. And we can, yeah, I mean, I've got to be in bed by 8:30, but from 8 to 8:30 is going to be crazy for us. But I think that would be fun. We could go see what evidence we get. We can go to some of the places that that I'm aware of that are legal, that we're not, you know, bothering
would
anyone
love
or
that.
breaking any laws, and
My
just see.
God.
You know what? Maybe we don't get anything, or maybe we get a lot of something.
Exactly.
That'd
Just
be
don't bring it
awesome.
home.
Right.
That'd be awesome. This sounds
Let's do
great.
it.
Let's do
Right.
it. Oh my gosh. Cool.
Give it a go.
That's right.
I want to tell you a quick story about this is a truthful story. It's a little bit embarrassing, but I think you're going to appreciate this. There is a professional motorcycle rider, Clint Esposito. Right now, I haven't seen or read anything on him recently, but when Devin, our son, was in middle school, Clint Esposito was one of the hottest, like pro riding, did all the tricks, all the, you know. So we found out, and Melina, I don't know if I ever shared this with you, but we found out that he lived about 5 miles from where I live.
Oh, cool.
And Devin, he had all the motorcycle gear, the helmets. He had the, you know, we would go to Durham Town or ride it, you know, where I grew up. And so he was a hero to Devin. So my wife and I had a plan to get this guy's attention for our son, because as a parent, you do anything for your kids. So he had a YouTube channel, and on the YouTube channel, he was showing some tricks that they did, some things that they were doing. And for one of the landing sites, he needed to put a little bit of a tarp down. And when he did that, he picked up a rock and he said, "Hey, here in Georgia, this is what we call a hammer." And he took the hammer and he pounded the nail in and the tarp in. And I told my wife, I said, "That's our ticket in. That Georgia hammer is our ticket in." So we put together a ransom note that basically said, and I'm talking about, my wife went all out. She had all the little letters, like different colors. And it basically said, again, you do whatever for your kids, you know. It said, "We found your hammer. If you want it back, you'll give us a call." And I have my cell phone number on there. And we drove by and got a video of us putting it on the mailbox, you know. And I went to work the next day, and about 9:30 in the morning, my phone rang. And when I picked it up, it was the city police department.
Oh, no.
Oh my gosh.
And they're like, "Listen, did you put a ransom note on this?" And I was like, "Well, yeah, I did." And we talked, and within a few minutes, they had 10 or 12 policemen on the phone. They were all crying, laughing. I was trying to tell them what happened. What ended up happening was that was where Clint Esposito lived. Unfortunately for us, he moved out the week prior to us doing that, and a new family moved in. Now, all the motorcycle stuff was still out there. They still had all the jumps and everything. So it looked like his house, but apparently he had been gone for a week. And the other family moved in. They didn't know they lost a hammer, but they didn't like knowing I had it. So now somehow this made its way to Clint Esposito, who ended up calling us and offering to send a bunch of stuff out to Devin. So it worked out either way. But, you know, ransom notes are never a good idea. So that's one of those other things that you learn to not ever do.
But,
So,
you know, 10 points for cleverness.
Right.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, that's really fun.
Fantastic.
Oh my
You
god.
have to tell the story of your toilet mirror behind you.
Oh man, the toilet mirror sucks. I don't know if you guys can get a picture of that over there. It's got, let's see, is the mirror on it? Yeah, it's got, I don't know if you can see it. I don't know if you can see the mirror on it.
Yes.
Yep.
It says it on it. So what happened? It says loser on top of it. Did you guys ever see that movie that was Tag? I think the name of it is Tag. Tag You're It or something like that. I don't know. Everybody watched it that I, in the family here. And so they decided that we were going to play tag every year for a month. And
I remember the premise of the movie. Yeah.
And so, but we had some rules, like you couldn't tag back the person that tags you, those kinds of things. So there's some different rules out there. Well, we had done this for a couple of years. I am a bad winner. Like I'm a bad loser, but I'm a worse winner. So I don't like to lose. And so
that's because you're an Alabama fan. You're all like that.
I'm all, like I said, I almost wore an Alabama shirt today. I went with the old military.
There you go.
So we had been playing this for a couple of years, and my wife thinks that she can think of something and then you just build it in a few seconds, but it doesn't generally work that way. That trophy is about 3 tiers tall, has a little thing at the bottom, and but it's really just meant to show you what a big loser you are. And the idea is that whoever is tagged last in that month has to take a picture with the trophy and write out exactly how big of a loser they are every month for the year until the next year comes and we play tag again. This year we weren't playing, I thought, because of COVID. So the whole month went by, nobody tagged anybody. The last day of the month, they came out and tagged Leanda, my wife, who, me understanding as a husband, it's dangerous for me to not let her tag me. You know what I mean? Like if she has to do that for a year, it's going to be tough on me. So she tagged me. I'm the loser, and I have to sit with the trophy, which is really embarrassing, especially on
conference calls.
Yeah, I got the toilet behind me, but you gotta, if you're gonna play, you gotta play. So,
oh my gosh,
yeah,
that's awesome. I mean holy cow!
Kids got their electronics. He plays tag and gives away loser toilet seats with mirrors.
It's fun stuff. I have to tell one quick thing about Melina. Now I'm going to go ahead and preface this with you may want to dub this one out, but Dave, I don't know when you and I are going to talk again, so I'm going to go ahead and tell you.
Oh no,
Melina. I knew Melina and I were going to be very close after she texted me one morning about 6 a.m. And that text said, keep in mind, married, love my wife. I'm not one of those jokers that like, my wife is my bestie, So I say all that to say that even though I know that, and even though she knows that, Melina, pretty early on, a year into our friendship, sent me a text that quite realistically could have caused some issues. At 6 a.m., I get a text from Melina, and it says, "Thank goodness I'm not pregnant."
Oh,
I'm going to tell you right now. Now, what nobody knew was that Melina and I had just been talking a couple of days before that about how, as you get older and you don't necessarily plan for it, you still have to be thoughtful of those kinds of things. And what would you do if you had a kid when you weren't? And so all these things were going on. And so I guess there was a thought of that. And Melina let me know at 6 a.m. one morning that, she was good based on that conversation we had talked about. But had my wife happened to heard that phone go off in that moment, and I open it up and it's some lady named Melina saying, "Thank goodness I'm not pregnant."
Right. Well, it was one of those,
who's Melina?
At
who's
least
Melina?
Yeah, exactly.
There's
who's Melina?
Yeah, you're not going to talk your way out of that one. But I knew, like, Melina and I are close enough for her to send me this. We're going to be friends a long time. But I still deleted it in record time.
Yep. Oh my gosh.
Indeed. Yes, good times.
And the other thing, have you met Melina's son?
Oh, of course.
Oh, of course, yeah.
You guys
yeah.
right. So, Melina, have you told him about the bird call?
No, but I was hoping you would tell the story. In fact, so Nicholas,
Mhm.
does the production
I didn't know.
for this.
Oh, I
And
did see his name on it. Yeah.
yeah, and so he does the background, the editing, the whole works. And I told him that I was interviewing you tonight, and I said, I wonder if he'll tell the bird story. And I said, do you know that he still tells this story to this day? And he was very touched.
Well, I do. And hello, Nicholas. It's good to know you're there. It was funny when it was just a random day. I don't know if it was a teacher work day or something going on, but
it was the summertime. So, and they didn't have summer camp that day. So Nick is like in first grade.
right. So he comes in, but from meeting him, I assumed you'd met him, but anybody that spends time with him knows he's extremely sharp, and he always has been. And so, in fact, when he came in, even in the first grade, we knew, myself included, that he was the smartest guy in the office that day. But we kind of took to each other. I really liked him being there. It was fun. I told Melina, I said, we're gonna make a bird call. And so Nick, man, he's little Nicholas over there. He's all excited. And I'm like, oh, you got to fold the paper this way and turn it this way and cut this and do this. And,
it took like half an hour for y'all to make this paper mache bird collar.
Yeah. It was probably half hour, 45 minutes of cutting and folding. And, when we got done with it, it looked kind of like a cone. I mean, it looked like a bird call. And so little Nicholas is all ready to use it, and so we go outside and I told him how to use it. I said, just put it up your lips and go, here, birdie, 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 birdie. And he had a look like, are you kidding me right now? But he did it. Now, the chances of this happening are pretty much zero, but when he did it, there happened to be a flock of birds out there that were already coming in and landing at the parking lot, but they landed right at the time that he did it. Oh man, I heard him for hours out there. Here, birdie, 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 with that little call. And I think Melina was happy that, it took some time up for him that day. So
it did. I was having to call the doctors and get him on the schedule, but he's like, so here's what you do. And he puts it up to his mouth like he's about to demonstrate. Right. And instead it's like, here, birdie, birdie, birdie. Nick's like,
yeah.
And then tries it. It worked, Mr. Tim. It worked.
It was amazing. I still think about that. That was a great memory for me too. So
that's awesome.
That's awesome.
Well, listen, Tim, we are so grateful that you joined us this evening and got to tell us, your amazing stories and what makes you the amazing man that you are. And it's always good to share some good old Georgia redneck stories.
Well, thank you both for having me. I'm Dave. It's nice to know more about you and get to meet you. And Melina, I always enjoy speaking with you. But thank you all so much for you must have really been digging the bottom of the barrel to call me.
It's true.
To come on here, but I appreciate it.
Well, thanks again. So let's do our evening toast. So everybody out there, you know the score. It doesn't matter where you've been or who you know. Pick up the courage and give it a go. Toast. Thanks again, everybody. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and ring that bell so you know when the next one's coming out. Thanks again, Tim Chaffin. You are the man. We love you.
Thank you very much.
Take care.
Thanks.